A pickaxe strikes stone in the darkness, revealing a passage sealed for centuries. This is the world beneath our feet, a hidden landscape of ancient tunnels holding humanity's deepest secrets. We are about to journey across the globe and through time to explore 25 of the most astonishing subterranean passages ever discovered. By the end, you will have a complete map of humanity's secret underground history, from forgotten cities that housed thousands to escape routes that changed the course of wars. What forgotten purpose did builders carve into the bedrock beneath the Great Pyramid? Why would an entire civilization choose to live in darkness? The answers lie in stone and shadow. What do you believe drives us to build our greatest works where no one can see them? Beneath the polished limestone and millions of stone blocks of the Great Pyramid lies a secret older than the monument itself. Carved directly into the bedrock, deep below the pyramid's foundation, is a rough, cavernous space known as the subterranean chamber. It is a stark contrast to the precision above, a jagged, unfinished room that feels more like a cave than a royal tomb. Reached by a steep, cramped descending passage, this chamber is a place of raw, unsettling power. Its floor is uneven, its walls are rough-hewn, and at its far end, a mysterious pit drops even deeper into the darkness, a shaft that was seemingly abandoned mid-digging. This is not the grand burial chamber of a pharaoh. It is something far more enigmatic. Why would the pyramid's builders go to such extraordinary lengths to hollow out this crude space before they even laid the first cornerstone of their majestic structure above? Some archaeologists believe it was a symbolic tomb, a representation of the underworld for the pharaoh's soul to navigate. Others argue it was purely ritualistic, a place for ceremonies meant to empower the pyramid's construction from the earth upward. Then there is the compelling theory that this chamber was simply a mistake, an initial plan that was scrapped, its entrance sealed and forgotten as the builders changed their grand design. But its very existence whispers a tantalizing possibility. If the builders took such care to create this hidden foundational chamber, what other voids might they have left behind? Modern technology is listening to those whispers. Muon tomography, a kind of cosmic ray scan, and advanced three-dimensional mapping have recently suggested the presence of several large, unexplained voids within the pyramid's superstructure. These potential hidden chambers, hinted at by science but still unseen by human eyes, make the subterranean chamber feel like a clue. It is the original hidden tunnel, a testament to the fact that the Great Pyramid's greatest secrets may not be in its soaring heights, but in the profound darkness cradling its base. This deep, rough room forces us to ask, was the pyramid built to house a king, or was it designed to conceal something else entirely? While Egypt's pyramids reach for the sun, another ancient culture chose the opposite direction, carving a sanctuary of profound silence into the living rock. On the Mediterranean island of Malta lies the hypogeum of Hal Saflieni, a labyrinthine underground temple complex so significant it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is not a single tunnel but an astonishing three-level subterranean city of the dead, meticulously hollowed from soft Globigerina limestone over centuries, beginning around 6,000 years ago. The upper level feels like a series of ancient tombs with large, circular chambers carved into the bedrock. Descending to the middle level reveals the heart of the complex, a maze of ornate rooms decorated with red ochre spirals and false doors, perhaps mimicking the temples that stood above ground. The lowest level is a deep, silent pool of water, a chilling and final depth. But the hypogeum's true mystery is not just in its scale, but in its sound. One particular room, known as the Oracle Chamber, possesses an extraordinary acoustic property. A deep male voice spoken into a small, carved niche resonates through the entire chamber with a haunting, bell-like vibration that can be felt in the bone. This was no accident. It was ancient acoustic engineering, likely used to amplify ritual chants or create an otherworldly voice of a deity speaking from the stone itself. The hypogeum was a sanctuary and an ossuary, a final resting place for the bones of over 7,000 individuals. Among these remains were skulls exhibiting strange, elongated shapes, a physical trait that has fueled theories of an unknown, ancient people or deliberate cranial binding for ritual purposes. Then there is the artifact known as the Sleeping Lady, a small clay figurine of a woman reclining peacefully on a couch found within the depths. She is not depicted in fear or agony, but in serene slumber, perhaps symbolizing eternal sleep or a spiritual journey. Together, the echoing oracle, the shaped skulls, and the peaceful figurine paint a picture of a culture intimately connected to the underworld, not as a place of terror, but as a sacred, resonant womb for ritual, rest, and communication with forces beyond our understanding. This complex asks us to listen, not just look for its secrets. The silence of Malta's sacred tombs gives way to the frantic echo of an entire civilization on the run. Far to the east, in the otherworldly landscape of Cappadocia, Turkey, the ground itself became a fortress. Here we find not a temple or a tomb, but an entire city built to disappear. This is Derinkuyu, an underground metropolis so vast and complex it redefines our understanding of ancient survival. Carved from soft volcanic rock over 2,500 years ago, this is not a simple hideout. It is a fully self-contained world descending 18 levels deep, a labyrinth capable of sheltering an astonishing 20,000 people for months at a time. Think about that number. It is the population of a small modern town, all living in complete secrecy beneath the feet of any invading army. The engineering is breathtaking. Over 600 entrances, cleverly hidden in surface courtyards and homes, led down into this stone hive. Massive, circular rolling stone doors, each weighing up to half a ton, could seal individual levels from the inside, creating impenetrable choke points. But a city cannot survive on doors alone. Derinku's architects solved the problems of light, air, water, and waste with ingenious precision. 52 ventilation shafts, some over 180 feet deep, provided fresh air to even the lowest chambers. These were not simple holes, they were sophisticated engineering feats that prevented detection from the surface while maintaining airflow. Deep wells tapped into underground water sources, ensuring a constant supply even during a siege. There were stables for livestock, storage rooms for grain, communal kitchens, wineries with stone presses, and even dedicated spaces for making wine and olive oil. Remarkably, they built churches, complete with arched ceilings and stone altars, for spiritual solace during long periods of confinement. Schools and meeting rooms fostered community, while a complex network of tunnels connected Derinkuyu to other nearby underground cities, creating a literal subterranean highway for escape or communication. This was not a place of mere hiding, it was a planned society designed for long-term endurance. The motivation was as clear as the threat was constant. For centuries, the people of Cappadocia faced waves of invaders sweeping across the open plains. When the alarm sounded, the entire population would vanish, rolling their great stone doors shut behind them, leaving the surface world eerily empty and silent. Above ground, an enemy would find only abandoned homes and fields, with no clue that a bustling city lay directly beneath their feet. Its people living, working, and waiting in the cool, dark safety of the earth. Derinkuyu forces us to reconsider what safety means. It shows that sometimes the greatest strength is not in building walls to keep threats out, but in having the foresight to build an entire world where those threats simply cannot find you. From the ancient stone fortresses of Cappadocia, we leap forward to a conflict etched in living memory where the earth itself became a weapon. In the dense jungles of Vietnam, the Cu Kai tunnels represent a terrifying evolution of underground warfare. This was not a city for permanent refuge, but a vast hidden web of guerrilla combat, stretching for over 150 miles beneath the war-torn region. Built and expanded over decades, first against French colonial forces and then during the American War, This network was the lifeline of the Viet Cong. Its design was a masterpiece of brutal ingenuity. Entrances were camouflaged with leaves and soil, often hidden beneath termite mounds or inside flooded rice paddy banks, invisible until a soldier would melt into the ground. But these were not just escape routes. The tunnels contained everything needed to sustain a shadow army. There were cramped living quarters, field hospitals for treating the wounded, rudimentary kitchens that cleverly dispersed their smoke through multiple hidden vents, and even secret weapon factories and storage rooms. Soldiers could live, work, and move for weeks without ever surfacing, appearing only to strike before vanishing back into the earth. The true horror for opposing forces, however, lay in the tunnel's defenses. The jungle floor was a lethal puzzle of booby traps. Punji stake pits lined with sharpened bamboo spikes, often smeared with human waste to cause infection, were covered with fragile leaves. Tripwires connected to grenades or primitive claymore mines made every step a potential death sentence. Some tunnels were built with false dead ends or deliberately narrow sections, called choke points, where a pursuing soldier would have to crawl single file, only to be met with a waiting guard or another trap. This was psychological warfare as much as physical combat. The constant, unseen threat from below created an atmosphere of pervasive dread for troops above ground, who controlled the daylight but never the darkness. The tunnels of Ku Kai were a stark declaration that in war, the advantage does not always go to the side with the most advanced technology, but sometimes to those who most intimately understand their own land and possess the sheer will to shape it into a weapon. This hidden network proved that even in the age of helicopters and satellites, the ancient sanctuary of the underground could still dictate the terms of a modern battle. The tunnels of war give way to a city of silence built from necessity. Deep beneath the elegant boulevards of Paris lies its dark twin, a skeletal echo known as the catacombs. This empire of the dead began not as a tomb, but as the source of the city's very bones. For centuries, miners quarried limestone from deep underground, creating a 200-mile maze of galleries that supplied the stone for Notre Dame and the Louvre. As Paris grew upward, its hollow foundations began to crack and collapse, causing streets and buildings to simply sink into the earth. But a far more pressing crisis was unfolding above. By the late 1700s, the city's cemeteries were overflowing, a horrific public health hazard. The solution was as macabre as it was logical. The abandoned quarries would become a permanent ossuary. Beginning in 1786, in a solemn, nightly procession, the bones of over 6 million Parisians were carefully transported from graveyards across the city and meticulously arranged in the underground tunnels. Today, the official tourist path winds through a small, sanitized section of this necropolis, where femurs and skulls are stacked in hauntingly artistic patterns behind neat stone arches, bearing plaques with poetic epitaphs. This is the curated face of death. Beyond the official gates, however, the true labyrinth awaits, a forbidden realm known only to the secretive cataphiles. These urban explorers navigate by old quarry maps and memory, descending through manholes and hidden entrances to access a world untouched by tourism. Here, they discover not just endless corridors of bones, but hidden rooms transformed into underground art galleries, clandestine cinemas with projector screens carved into the stone, and fully furnished lounges where the sound of dripping water replaces city traffic. They follow strict codes of secrecy and respect, knowing a wrong turn in the unlit passages can lead to permanent disappearance. The catacombs present a profound duality. They are both a massive public memorial to mortality and an intensely private, living subculture that thrives in the city's shadows. This hidden Paris asks a quiet question of every visitor who walks its grand avenues. Do you build a city to celebrate life or to meticulously house its inevitable end? The catacombs of Paris hold a curated history of death, but beneath Rome, the layers tell the uninterrupted story of a living empire. The eternal city does not simply rest upon bedrock. It is built upon its own ghost, a staggering labyrinth of tunnels, pagan sanctuaries, and early Christian burial chambers that form a vertical timeline of Western civilization. To walk these subterranean passages is to descend through centuries, with every step a physical journey through time. Nowhere is this more perfectly preserved than at the Basilica of San Clement, a peaceful church near the Colosseum. On its sunlit surface, you see a beautiful 12th century basilica with glittering mosaics. Descend one level, and you enter a dim 4th century church, its faded frescoes of saints whispering from the walls. But the journey does not stop there. A narrow staircase leads down even further into the damp, cool air of the 1st century. Here, in a vaulted brick room, you stand in a Mithraeum, a secret temple to the pagan god Mithras. The central altar remains, carved with an image of Mithras slaying a bull, a ritual performed for the initiates who once gathered here by torchlight. The sound of a hidden stream, the Cloaca Maxima, Rome's ancient sewer, echoes faintly through the chamber. This is not an isolated site. All across Rome, similar spelunci or sacred caves and hundreds of miles of catacombs weave a hidden tapestry. Early Christians, forbidden from burying their dead within the city walls, carved these extensive networks, creating galleries where the faithful could gather in secret to worship and bury their martyrs. Yet these Christian catacombs, often reused and existed alongside older pagan burial sites and natural caverns considered gateways to the underworld. The tunnels beneath Rome are not separate histories. They are a continuous palimpsest, one faith literally built upon the ruins of another, which itself was built upon the foundations of a republic. Each layer was not erased, but simply buried and preserved by the next, offering a perfect archaeological cross-section of a city that has always been in conversation with its own past. This underground world forces us to ask, when a city rebuilds itself again and again, where does its true memory reside? Beneath the grand cathedrals and crusader castles lies a shadow history written in stone and whispered in conspiracy. The Knights Templar, history's most famous warrior monks, are shrouded in legends of unimaginable wealth and forbidden secrets, and their story extends deep underground. While popular fiction paints them as guardians of the Holy Grail in labyrinthine vaults, the historical reality of Templar tunnels is more strategic than supernatural. In Jerusalem, their headquarters was built upon the Temple Mount, a site already honeycombed with ancient cisterns and passages from earlier Jewish and Roman constructions. The Templars certainly used and likely expanded these subterranean spaces, not to hide a treasure, but for practical purposes: storage, secure movement of troops and supplies, and perhaps for private rituals away from public eyes. These tunnels were a military asset, not a mystical library. Across Europe, the evidence becomes more tangible. At Chinon Castle in France, where several Templar leaders were famously imprisoned, a network of underground passages connects the fortress to the town below and to the nearby river Vienne. These were escape routes and supply lines, the practical engineering of a powerful order that understood the value of controlling movement both above and below. Similar tunnels are found at Templar sites from Portugal to England, often linking a commandery, their local headquarters, to a church or a water source. So where did the legend of hidden gold and secret knowledge begin? The order's sudden and brutal suppression in the early 14th century is the key. King Philip IV of France, deeply in debt to the Templars, orchestrated their arrest on charges of heresy. Their vast archives were seized, their properties confiscated, and their Grand Master burned at the stake. But their central treasury in Paris was found to be nearly empty. This simple historical fact of a missing fortune ignited centuries of speculation. Had they smuggled it away through secret tunnels? Did it fund a hidden continuation of the order? The tunnels, once tools of logistics, were retroactively imagined as the veins through which their true power, whether gold or gospel, flowed to safety. The truth is likely more mundane. The wealth was probably moved or dispersed before the arrests. Yet the enduring power of the Templar myth lies in this perfect storm, a combination of genuine architectural secrecy, a shocking historical disappearance, and the human love for a mystery where shadows hint at a truth grander than fact. Their real tunnels speak of a pragmatic brotherhood, but the legends they inspired ask if some truths are too dangerous to be kept anywhere but in the dark. The pragmatic tunnels of knights and soldiers stand in stark contrast to a system built not for conquest but for creation. Across the vast, sun-scorched deserts of ancient Persia, survival itself flowed through a hidden artery known as the qanat. This was not a single tunnel but an elegant, life-giving network, one of history's greatest and most overlooked engineering triumphs. Imagine a gently sloping underground canal, carved by hand through rock and soil, sometimes for dozens of miles. It begins at the foot of a mountain where workers dug a mother well deep into the water table. From there, the tunnel was meticulously carved to slope just enough for water to flow by gravity, never so steeply that it would erode the channel. But the true genius is visible from above. Across the desert surface, at regular intervals of about 100 feet, a line of circular craters scars the earth. These are the vertical access shafts, used first to remove excavation debris and later for maintenance. From the air, they look like a gigantic dotted line drawn by a divine hand across the landscape, pointing directly from the water source to a parched city or a blooming orchard. For over 3,000 years, these qanats were the circulatory system of Persian civilization. They delivered a cool, clean, and reliable water supply to cities like Yazd, enabling not just survival, but the flourishing of gardens, public baths, and exquisite architecture in the heart of the desert. They turned barren land into fertile agricultural oases, supporting farms and villages far from any river. The construction was a monumental, communal effort, often taking generations to complete, with knowledge passed from father to son. The system was democratic too, with water shares carefully allocated to different families and farms, governed by strict codes to prevent conflict. While empires rose and fell above ground, the silent, steady flow beneath their feet continued unabated. The qanat asks a profound question of us today. In an age of massive dams and energy-intensive pumps, what does it mean to build in harmony with the earth? This was not a technology that conquered nature, but one that whispered to it, coaxing life from the deep rock with nothing but gravity, human ingenuity, and patience. The steady flow of the qanat is a whisper of life, but beneath another ancient city, the earth was made to scream with sacred power. Far across the world, beneath the colossal avenue of the dead in Teotihuacan, Mexico, lies a secret so potent it was sealed for almost 2,000 years. This is the hidden tunnel system under the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, a discovery that rewrote our understanding of this mysterious metropolis. For years, archaeologists suspected the pyramid held more than its stepped stone facade. Using ground-penetrating radar, they detected a void, a deep shaft leading straight down from the temple at the pyramid's summit. What they found when they finally excavated was not a burial chamber, but a meticulously constructed portal to the underworld. The tunnel descended over 300 feet into the damp, absolute darkness, ending in a series of chambers that had never been looted. And here, the first clue to its profound purpose was a substance both beautiful and terrifying: liquid mercury. Pools of this shimmering, toxic metal were found in the chambers, a substance so rare and difficult to produce in the ancient world that its presence could only signal one thing: immense sacred significance. To the Teotihuacanos, mercury may have represented a sacred river or lake of the underworld, its reflective surface mimicking the night sky or a portal to the spirit realm. But the mercury was just the beginning. The tunnel was filled with an astonishing array of offerings, tens of thousands of ritual objects placed as a foundational sacrifice. There were exquisite jade statues, finely carved shells, animal bones from jaguars and pumas, and most strikingly, dozens of large handcrafted pyrite mirrors. When polished, these iron pyrite discs would have gleamed like golden suns, reflecting torchlight in the dark tunnel to create a dazzling, starry effect. This was no tomb for a king. It was a symbolic recreation of the cosmos itself, a man-made cave representing the primordial darkness from which the world was born. The entire city of Teotihuacan, with its grand pyramids aligned to celestial events, was quite literally built upon this sacred void. The tunnel's construction and sealing was likely the central, culminating act that sanctified the city's foundation, a ritual to tether the world of the living to the powers of the world below. It tells us that for its builders, true power did not come from building toward the heavens, but from first honoring and connecting with the profound and dangerous beauty of the earth's deepest mysteries. The sacred mercury pools of Teotihuacan reflect a spiritual darkness, but the tunnels of Gibraltar were carved for a far more earthly purpose: raw military survival. This monolithic limestone rock, guarding the narrow strait between Europe and Africa, is not solid. It is a hollowed-out fortress, a labyrinth of military ambition blasted and chiseled through centuries of conflict. The most famous are the Great Siege Tunnels, a story of desperation and engineering audacity. During the Great Siege of Gibraltar from 1779 to 1783, British forces were trapped, bombarded by Spanish and French troops on land and sea. Their solution was not to retreat, but to advance straight into the rock itself. With sledgehammers, gunpowder, and sheer muscle, they began carving a tunnel to position a cannon where no enemy could see or reach it. The work was hellish, done by hand in stifling heat and dust, but when they broke through the north face and their cannon could fire directly down onto the besieging lines, it changed the game. The success sparked a frenzy of excavation. They kept digging, creating not just a single gun position, but an entire defensive network within the stone, galleries with clear firing apertures that made the rock itself a bristling, impregnable weapon. But this was only the beginning. The 20th century would see this idea explode in scale. During the Second World War, fearing a Nazi assault on this vital choke point, the British engineered the Rock of Gibraltar into perhaps the most fortified place on Earth. They constructed over 30 miles of new tunnels, a true underground city designed to house 16,000 soldiers for over a year without ever surfacing. This was a fully functioning military base in the belly of the mountain. It contained vast stores of food and ammunition, a power station, a water distillation plant, a hospital with an operating theater, and even a secret telephone exchange. The largest chamber, known as the cathedral, was so big it could hold multiple trucks and served as a main thoroughfare. The entire complex was ventilated by huge shafts cut from above, and its entrances were protected by steel doors and guard posts. Today, sections of this immense network are open as a museum. You can walk through the cool, echoing galleries, past the original cannon still pointing from their stone casemates, and see the cramped bunk rooms and wartime equipment frozen in time. The air still carries the scent of old stone and damp metal, a tangible memory of the thousands who lived in this artificial, subterranean world, waiting for an attack that never came. Gibraltar's tunnels are a monument to a specific kind of human logic, the understanding that when you hold a piece of land too valuable to lose, you do not just defend its surface, you burrow into its very heart and make yourself part of the landscape, silent, patient, and utterly unassailable. Gibraltar's tunnels were carved from military necessity, but another network in northern France served as a silent sanctuary for civilians across 17 centuries. Beneath the quiet village of Naours lies a true underground city, a vast labyrinth originally carved as a limestone quarry in the 3rd century. When the valuable stone was exhausted, the people saw not an empty cavern but a perfect fortress. They expanded the existing chambers into a self-contained refuge capable of sheltering 3,000 villagers with their livestock and possessions. The scale is breathtaking, with 300 individual rooms spread across 28 separate galleries, all hidden 100 feet below the surface. This was not a temporary bolt hole, it was a designed community for enduring long sieges. There were stables with tethering rings carved into the walls, spacious communal kitchens with carefully engineered chimney, flues to disperse smoke, multiple wells for fresh water, and even 3 separate chapels where people could pray for deliverance in the cool, dim light. For over 1,000 years, from the Viking raids to the 100 Years' War and the religious conflicts of the 16th century, generations would vanish into this subterranean world whenever danger appeared on the horizon. They would roll massive stone slabs across the entrance shafts and wait in the echoing darkness, their lives suspended until the threat passed. But Naours holds a more recent and poignant layer of history. During the First World War, the tunnels found a new purpose as a billet for soldiers far from the front lines. It became a place of restless respite, and the soft limestone walls became a canvas for their thoughts. Thousands of soldiers, particularly from the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, left their mark in the form of delicate graffiti. They carved their names, service numbers, hometowns, and regiments with meticulous care. Some drew intricate illustrations of women's faces, regimental badges, or animals. One soldier from Melbourne etched a detailed image of a horse, perhaps a beloved mount from home. These are not acts of vandalism, they are fragile historical documents, a silent chorus of young men far from the southern hemisphere, pausing in an ancient French hideout to assert their identity in the face of unimaginable chaos. The graffiti transforms the space. It layers the medieval fear of invasion with the very personal anxieties of a global war. Walking these galleries today, you pass a 14th century chapel only to find, around the next corner, the neatly carved name of Private John Smith, 19 years old, from Sydney, dated 1916. This underground city does more than shelter bodies. It preserves the human impulse to say, "I was here." In the profound darkness across centuries, that simple message becomes a powerful act of defiance. The human need to leave a mark finds its echo in a very different kind of Egyptian darkness. Far from the pyramids at the Temple of Hathor in Dendera, a different set of tunnels has sparked a modern myth that rivals the ancient ones. Beneath the temple's floor, a series of cramped, low crypts snake through the foundation. These are not grand passageways, but functional, claustrophobic spaces used for a single, vital purpose: to store the temple's most sacred ritual items. Statues of the gods, precious ceremonial vessels, and possibly even the sacred bark, the boat used to carry the deity's image during festivals, would be kept safe in these cool, hidden chambers when not in use. Their walls are carved with profound religious scenes, not of advanced technology, but of spiritual renewal. This is where the legitimate, fascinating history ends and the persistent fiction begins. In one particular crypt, a relief carving shows a large, writhing snake inside an elongated, vase-like object held aloft by a priest. This image has been ripped from its context by fringe theorists and labeled the Dendera light bulb, presented as evidence that ancient Egyptians used electric lighting. The theory completely ignores the surrounding hieroglyphs and the well-understood symbolic language of Egyptian art. The snake represents the god Harsomptis, a form of Horus, and the so-called bulb is a lotus flower from which the snake god is born, a classic symbol of creation and resurrection. The entire scene is a spiritual metaphor, not an electrical diagram. The real power of the Dendera crypts lies not in imagined technology, but in their affirmation of sacred secrecy. By storing the divine images underground, the priests were performing a ritual of protection and cyclical renewal. The gods, in a sense, would retreat into the womb of the earth, only to be brought forth again in ceremony, reborn and potent. These tunnels were a practical closet and a metaphysical cradle, ensuring the divine presence remained anchored and safe within the temple's very foundations. The sacred crypts of Dendera held objects of reverence, but the vaults beneath Edinburgh were built for commerce and descended into pure terror. In the late 18th century, Edinburgh's South Bridge was an engineering marvel, a grand stone viaduct with 19 arches spanning the city's Cowgate Valley. Yet the bridge's designers saw opportunity in its hollow foundations, and so they constructed a series of chambers within the arches themselves, creating a hidden underground world right beneath the bustling streets. Initially, these sunless rooms were practical spaces, rented out as storage cellars for whiskey, timber, and coal, or as workshops for cobblers and other tradesmen who needed cheap rent. But the design had a fatal flaw. The vaults were damp, poorly ventilated, and desperately cold, sealed from natural light. As the city expanded, the wealthy merchants abandoned these grim spaces for newer, drier accommodations. The vaults were left to the destitute, and they transformed with horrifying speed into a subterranean slum. By the early 1800s, they had become a lawless warren, a refuge for the city's most desperate souls, criminals, prostitutes, and those with nowhere else to go. The air grew thick with the stench of poverty and decay, the only light coming from guttering tallow candles. This was a place where people vanished and where some were made to vanish. The shadow of two men, William Burke and William Hare, falls long over this history. In 1828, they preyed upon this vulnerable population, not in the vaults themselves, but in the similarly squalid lodging houses of the old town. They murdered at least 16 people, selling the fresh corpses to the city's medical school for anatomical dissection. While their crimes occurred above ground, the chilling atmosphere of the vaults, a place where the unwanted could disappear without question, feels like a physical manifestation of their evil. It is this layered history of suffering, violence, and sudden death that fuels the vault's modern reputation as one of the most intensely haunted places on Earth. Visitors and paranormal investigators report a palpable, oppressive heaviness, feelings of being watched or touched by unseen hands, and the apparitions of a small, cold child or a menacing shadow figure known as Mr. Boots. The stones seem to have absorbed the anguish of centuries. The Edinburgh vaults ask a disturbing question: what happens when architecture designed for utility becomes a container for human despair? The answer seems to linger in the cold, dark air, a whisper from a past that refuses to stay buried. The oppressive darkness of Edinburgh's slums is a world away from the sweet, scented light of a French hillside. In the heart of Provence, a disused limestone mine has been given a second life, one of color and fragrance. This is the Lavender Mine, a man-made cavern where the iconic purple blooms of the region are now cultivated not under the Mediterranean sun, but under the steady glow of artificial light hundreds of feet underground. The site is nothing short of surreal. Where miners once extracted pale stone, row upon perfect row of lavender plants now thrive. Their vibrant purple spikes a startling contrast to the rough gray walls. Specially tuned full-spectrum lamps mimic the sun's rays, bathing the subterranean farm in a perpetual, gentle noon. But why go to such extraordinary lengths? The answer lies in control. Underground, the climate is perfectly stable, a constant, cool temperature with high humidity that protects the delicate plants from the scorching heat, violent mistral winds, and sudden frosts that can ravage surface crops. This sealed environment also means no pests and no need for pesticides, allowing for a purer, organic product. The result is a lavender with a uniquely intense aroma, its essential oils concentrated by the perfect, stress-free growing conditions. Walking through this underground field, the air is thick with a calming, floral perfume, a sensory experience that feels both ancient and futuristic. It is a peaceful reclamation, a space once carved for industry now nurturing one of nature's most delicate gifts. This tunnel asks us to reconsider what lies beneath our feet, not as a place of fear or storage, but as a potential sanctuary for growth and unexpected beauty. The lavender's cultivated perfume speaks of human ingenuity, but some tunnels were built for a purpose far more fundamental than beauty or war: the simple, dignified management of daily life. In the dusty plains of modern-day Pakistan, the ruins of Mohenjo-Daro reveal a civilization that mastered this art over 4,000 years ago. This was not a city of grand pyramids or hidden temples, but one of stunning, rational order, and much of its genius lies in what it built below the street. The most striking features are not tunnels in the adventurous sense, but an incredibly sophisticated network of covered brick drains and chutes integrated into every single house and every street. Each home had its own bathing area with a sloped floor, and wastewater was channeled through clay pipes into these larger, underground street drains, which were meticulously covered with brick slabs or limestone blocks. These were not open sewers, they were a hidden, subterranean circulatory system for cleanliness, protecting the water supply from contamination and the streets from filth. The system was so advanced it included manholes for maintenance and sedimentation tanks to allow solids to settle out before the water flowed onward. But the true mystery of Mohenjo-Daro's underworld lies in a handful of puzzling structures. Archaeologists have uncovered a few large, sunken rooms or carefully constructed subterranean chambers that defy easy explanation. They are too deep and substantial to be simple cellars. One prominent theory suggests they were sophisticated, temperature-controlled granaries or storage vaults, using the Earth's natural coolness to preserve precious food supplies for the city's estimated 40,000 inhabitants. Another, more intriguing idea posits they were underground assembly halls or civic spaces, offering a cool refuge from the blistering Indus Valley sun for community gatherings or administrative work. The city's most famous structure, the so-called Great Bath, is itself a monumental, waterproofed underground tank, likely used for ritual purification. This hints that the subterranean was also sacred. While we have found no vast labyrinths for hiding or escape, the covered drains and enigmatic chambers of Mohenjo-Daro point to a different priority, a collective, almost modern dedication to public health, civic planning, and communal stability. In a world where other ancient wonders reach for the gods, the people of the Indus Valley looked downward, investing their greatest engineering effort not in monuments to power, but in a hidden infrastructure for a better, cleaner, more orderly life. Their legacy whispers that a civilization's true greatness might be measured not by what it displays to the heavens, but by what it discreetly manages beneath its feet. The rational order of Mohenjo-Daro stands in stark contrast to a temple designed to shatter reason with sound. High in the Peruvian Andes, the ancient complex of Chavin de Huantar is a masterpiece of psychological engineering, and its true power lies hidden beneath the stone floors. This was not just a temple, it was an instrument, and its priests were the musicians. Beneath the main plaza and the labyrinthine corridors of the old temple lies a sophisticated network of narrow, stone-lined galleries and precisely carved air ducts. These were not passages for people, but channels for something far more ethereal, water and sound. The system was a hydraulic and acoustic marvel. During the rainy season, priests would divert water from a nearby canal into these underground channels. As the torrent rushed through the narrow stone ducts, it would create a powerful roar, a deep, thundering noise that would resonate up through the hollow stone conduits and emerge into the temple's interior courtyards and chambers. The sound was not random. It was designed to mimic the terrifying roar of a jaguar, the most powerful predator of the Amazonian jungles below. Imagine standing in the dim, incense-filled temple, surrounded by carvings of snarling feline deities, when suddenly the very stones around you erupt with the guttural growl of a great cat. The effect would have been visceral and terrifying, a direct manifestation of the god's voice speaking from the underworld. This is acoustics in its most potent form, the ancient science of using architecture and environment to shape spiritual experience. The most famous artifact, the Lanzon monolith, a 15-foot-tall blade of granite carved into a snarling human-jaguar hybrid, stands at the heart of this sonic web in a cruciform chamber. The roaring water would have made this central idol seem alive, its stone mouth seemingly the source of the supernatural sound. The tunnels were the hidden vocal cords of the temple, allowing a small group of priests to orchestrate an awe-inspiring spectacle for hundreds of initiates. This was mind control through architecture, a way to bypass doubt and speak directly to the primal brain. Chavin de Huantar asks us to listen to the past differently. It proves that for some ancient builders, the greatest magic was not in what they made us see, but in what they engineered us to hear, transforming the very heartbeat of the mountain into the voice of a god. The engineered roar of Chavin de Huantar was a tool of control, but one American tunnel became a symbol of its complete and utter failure. The escape from Alcatraz in 1962 is the stuff of legend, a tale of 3 men who vanished from the most secure prison in the United States, leaving behind only dummy heads in their beds and a hole in a cell wall. For decades, the official story maintained they must have drowned in the frigid, treacherous waters of San Francisco Bay. Yet a persistent question remained: how did they get from their cells to the water unseen? The answer lay in a forgotten space behind the walls. In 2015, using ground-penetrating radar to map the prison's infrastructure, researchers made a stunning discovery. Behind the cells of the escapees, Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers, was a hidden utility corridor, a narrow, dark tunnel of pipes and conduits running between the cell block and the outer wall. This was not a passage they dug, but one they found and exploited. Their meticulous plan, revealed in part through later investigations, involved using stolen spoons and a homemade drill to painstakingly chip away the damaged concrete around a vent in the back of their cells. This vent led directly into this secret corridor, a blind spot in the prison's design. Once inside this hidden artery, they had a protected workspace. Here, unseen and unheard, they could store their stolen materials, fashion their life raft from stolen raincoats, and prepare for the final phase. The ground-penetrating radar confirmed the corridor's existence and its layout, physically corroborating a crucial, long-theorized step in their legendary escape. It proved that their genius was not just in their tools, but in their perception. They saw a utility space for what it truly was: a backstage passage out of the world's most famous cage. This discovery adds a chilling layer of credibility to their story. It suggests that for months, while guards paced the cell block, these men were literally moving in the walls beside them, in a parallel, hidden dimension of pipes and shadows. The tunnel of Alcatraz asks a final, haunting question: did they truly perish in the bay? Or did they use this hidden flaw in the system to achieve the impossible and simply disappear? The escape from Alcatraz hinged on a hidden utility corridor, but the tunnels beneath the Vatican are woven from faith, power, and centuries of rumor. This is the most secretive underground landscape in the world, a realm where limited archaeological fact collides with boundless legend. The only part of this subterranean world regularly accessible to the public is the Vatican necropolis, known as the Scavi, which lies directly beneath the soaring nave of St. Peter's Basilica. This is an ancient Roman burial ground, a silent city of the dead preserved in remarkable condition because it was carefully backfilled by Emperor Constantine's engineers in the 4th century to create a level foundation for the first basilica. Walking its narrow, dimly lit passages is a journey through layers of history, past ornate pagan mausoleums with faded frescoes alongside simple Christian tombs. At its heart, directly beneath the high altar of the basilica above, is a small, humble monument. For centuries, tradition has held this to be the tomb of St. Peter the Apostle, the first pope. While absolute proof is elusive, archaeological evidence strongly suggests this venerated spot is authentic, making these tunnels the spiritual bedrock of the entire Catholic Church. Yet this sanctioned sacred site is just the beginning of the whispers. For every documented corridor like the Scavi, there are a dozen tales of clandestine passages connecting the Apostolic Palace to distant Roman basilicas, or of hidden staircases allowing popes to move unseen. The most persistent legends swirl around the Vatican's secret archives, a vast repository of millions of documents. Popular culture imagines these archives as a single, cavernous hall filled with forbidden knowledge, accessible only by a labyrinth of guarded tunnels. The reality is more bureaucratic, a series of secure, climate-controlled rooms and modern shelving systems, though its contents are undoubtedly historically explosive. The true tunnels here are not of stone but of secrecy, the protected pathways by which sensitive information and people have moved for a millennium. Could there be physical passages still unknown? Given the Vatican's 2,000-year history of construction, destruction, and renovation, it is almost certain. But their purpose is likely less about hidden treasure and more about the quiet, unobserved administration of a global institution and the protection of its most sacred relics and records from a turbulent world. These underground spaces, both real and imagined, form the ultimate paradox, a hidden foundation that must exist to support the most publicly visible faith on Earth. While the Vatican's tunnels guard spiritual secrets, another city built a hidden fortress for the sheer preservation of flesh and blood. Beneath the bustling modern streets of Beijing lies a monument to 20th century fear, a subterranean city known as Teotihuacan. Constructed in the late 1960s and 70s at the height of the Cold War and Sino-Soviet tensions, this was not an ancient refuge but a modern civil defense project on an almost unimaginable scale. Ordered by Chairman Mao Zedong, the complex was designed to protect the city's population from potential nuclear attack. The numbers are staggering, a labyrinth spanning over 30 square miles in places, with a theoretical capacity to shelter close to 1 million people for up to 4 months. This was not a mere bunker, it was a fully planned underground replica of the city above. The tunnels contained everything needed for a prolonged, sealed existence. There were designated living quarters, hospitals with operating rooms, schools, factories for light industry, and even theaters and cinemas for morale. Granaries and warehouses were stocked with supplies, and there were dedicated mushroom farming chambers to provide food. Ventilation was managed through hundreds of camouflaged shafts, and some passages were wide enough for trucks to pass through, connecting to key government buildings and the Forbidden City itself. For decades, Teotihuacan was a closely guarded state secret maintained by citizen brigades. Today, it stands as a haunting relic of a pervasive global paranoia. Most of its entrances have been sealed or repurposed, swallowed by new construction. Yet, in a few locations, small sections have been opened as a bizarre tourist attraction. Visitors can descend into a time capsule of drab, concrete corridors, past faded propaganda posters urging vigilance and sacrifice, seeing the empty clinics and communal kitchens that were never used for their intended apocalyptic purpose. It feels both profoundly serious and strangely surreal, a ghost city built for a nightmare that never came. Teotihuacan forces a chilling reflection. It represents the ultimate act of preparing for the worst of human nature, a vast, empty shell holding nothing but the echo of a fear so powerful it moved mountains of earth. The vast, silent city beneath Beijing was built for a fear that could be named, but the tunnels of Cornwall hold a mystery so old its purpose has been utterly erased. Scattered across the rugged landscape of southwestern England are strange, subterranean passages known as fogous, a Cornish word simply meaning cave. These are not natural formations, but meticulously crafted Iron Age structures, built over 2,000 years ago from massive, unmortared stone slabs in the ancient dry stone wall technique. To enter one is to step into a profound and unsettling silence. The construction is always the same, a narrow, low passageway, often so cramped you must stoop or crawl, lined and roofed with colossal granite or slate slabs, then buried under a mound of earth. Their entrances are deliberately hidden, sometimes concealed within the bank of an ancient settlement or disguised to look like part of the natural landscape. This secrecy is the first clue to their profound strangeness. What were they for? The debate is one of Britain's most enduring archaeological puzzles. The practical theory suggests they were cold storage, a kind of prehistoric root cellar where the constant, cool temperature of the earth could preserve grain, dairy, or meat. Yet their construction seems excessively labor-intensive for a simple pantry, and many are awkwardly designed for frequent access. The defensive theory proposes they were places of last refuge during raids, but their cramped, linear design makes them terrible for hiding large groups, and once inside, you will be trapped like an animal in a stone pipe. This leads many to the ritual explanation, the experience of moving from bright daylight into a narrow, twisting stone passage, then into a deeper, often cruciform or chambered darkness, is deeply symbolic. It mimics a journey into the underworld, a ritual death and rebirth. Some fogous are aligned with solstice sunrises, allowing a dagger of light to pierce the inner chamber on only one day of the year. Perhaps they were initiation sites, places for communing with ancestors, or sanctuaries for ceremonies too potent to be performed under the open sky. With no written records, no artifacts left behind, and no carvings on the walls, the fogous give up nothing but their own imposing presence. They are architecture as a question, a cold, dark void in the historical record that refuses to be filled with anything but our own wonder. The stark, silent questions of Cornwall's fogous find a dazzling answer deep in the Polish earth. Here, necessity did not just birth survival, but transcendent art. The Wieliczka salt mine is a place where the act of extraction became an act of worship, transforming over 700 years of labor into a breathtaking underground cathedral of salt. Descending its wooden staircases is a journey into a world of pure white crystal, a labyrinth on 9 levels that stretches for over 170 miles. This was once the engine of a kingdom's wealth, producing table salt for centuries, but its true legacy is written not in ledgers but in sculpted walls. The miners who worked here were not just laborers, they were artists who saw the very material they harvested as a canvas. With their picks and shovels, they carved vast, echoing chambers, some so large they could hold cathedrals, and tranquil underground lakes that mirror the chandeliers above. Their masterwork is the Chapel of St. Kinga. Imagine a sanctuary entirely hewn from salt, every element sculpted from the living rock. Its vaulted ceiling, its intricate bas-relief panels depicting biblical scenes like the Last Supper, the altars, the statues of saints, and even the magnificent chandeliers, whose crystals are made from dissolved and reconstituted salt, all glow with a soft, ethereal light. The floor is a polished checkerboard of salt tiles, and the air carries a clean, faintly metallic taste. This was not commissioned by a bishop or a king, but created over decades by the miners themselves for their own spiritual solace and to honor the patron saint of salt miners. They turned their workplace into a monument to faith, carving prayers directly into the walls they spent their lives cutting. Beyond the chapel, the mine is a gallery of whimsy and wonder, with full-size sculptures of dwarves and mythical figures, detailed recreations of historic scenes, and even an entire ballroom, all from salt. In 2013, this incredible feat of cultural and geological alchemy was rightfully named a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Wieliczka asks us to reconsider the places we label as merely industrial. It proves that human hands, when moved by something deeper than profit, can turn the darkest, most demanding work into a legacy of light and breathtaking beauty, hidden not to conceal but to elevate the very act of living. The artistic wonder of Wieliczka was carved in plain sight, but the sands of Giza conceal voids that technology is only now beginning to map. While the subterranean chamber beneath the Great Pyramid is a known enigma, it is just the beginning of a much larger hidden landscape. The entire plateau is a Swiss cheese of ancient engineering, with mysterious shafts and chambers hinting at a purpose we are still struggling to comprehend. One of the most dramatic is the so-called Tomb of Osiris, a deep, multi-level complex discovered in the bedrock between the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. Accessed by a vertical shaft plunging over 100 feet, it opens into a rectangular hall with a central trench, leading to another shaft that descends even further to a flooded chamber. This layout, with its symbolic islands and water, strongly suggests a ritual space connected to the myth of Osiris, god of the underworld and resurrection. It was not a tomb for a king, but perhaps a symbolic tomb for the god himself, a place where rituals of death and rebirth were performed in profound secrecy. Yet this dramatic shaft is just one piece of the puzzle. Modern non-invasive surveys are revealing that the plateau is far more hollow than anyone dreamed. Using techniques like muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to see through stone, and ground-penetrating radar, researchers have identified several large, unexplained anomalies. There are tantalizing voids detected within the Great Pyramid itself, one behind the famous chevrons on its north face and another large chamber above the Grand Gallery. Even more intriguing are the scans around the Sphinx. Surveys suggest a network of tunnels and chambers not only beneath the Sphinx, but also running between the pores and connecting to potential rooms under the nearby Valley Temple. For centuries, legends and fringe theories have spoken of a Hall of Records, a secret archive of ancient knowledge buried beneath the Sphinx. While mainstream archaeology remains skeptical, the scientific data now confirms one undeniable fact: there are significant man-made voids down there. The plateau is not a static museum of three pyramids on a plain. It is a dynamic, three-dimensional archaeological site with its most important chapters still unwritten, locked in darkness. Each new scan asks the same haunting question: if they built such monumental wonders above ground, what unimaginable spaces did they consider too sacred or too powerful to ever see the light? These monumental hidden chambers speak of gods and kings, yet the true foundation of any great city lies in something far more humble. For every sacred tunnel, there were miles of practical ones, the hidden veins that kept urban life from collapsing into chaos. The most famous of these is Rome's Cloaca Maxima, the Great Sewer. Begun in the 6th century BCE by the Etruscan kings, it started as an open canal to drain the swampy valley between Rome's hills. Over centuries, it was enclosed in stone, evolving into a massive, vaulted tunnel large enough for a boat to row through. This was not just a waste pipe, it was a statement of civic power, transforming a malarial marsh into the site of the Roman Forum, the very heart of the Republic. It channeled water from public baths and latrines, storm runoff from the streets, and yes, every manner of waste directly into the Tiber River. Its success was so profound that it remained in continuous use for over 1,000 years, and parts of it still function today. This engineering marvel normalized the unimaginable, making cleanliness and public health possible for a city of over 1 million people. But Rome was not the first to master this. Over 1,000 years earlier, the Minoan civilization on Crete built a sewerage system of breathtaking sophistication. In the Palace of Knossos, archaeologists found a fully integrated network of terracotta pipes, some with clever jointing systems to prevent leaks that carried fresh water in and wastewater out. These tunnels ensured efficient drainage from bathrooms and even had settling tanks to separate solids. The Minoans understood that a palace's grandeur depended as much on what flowed unseen beneath its colorful floors as on the frescoes that adorned its walls. Alongside these necessary but unglamorous sewers, the Romans perfected another kind of utilitarian tunnel, the cryptoporticus. This was a semi-subterranean gallery, often barrel-vaulted and lit by small windows or openings at ground level. You can think of it as the ancient equivalent of a climate-controlled service corridor. In a Roman villa, a cryptoporticus would provide a cool, shaded passageway for servants to move between wings without disturbing the household or being seen by guests, preserving the illusion of effortless luxury above. In public forums like the one in Arles, France, these vast, echoing underground galleries served as robust foundations for the heavy buildings above, while simultaneously creating secure storage space for the grain, oil, and wine that fed the city. They were spaces of quiet utility designed for preservation and discreet movement, the architectural opposite of the grand, symbolic tunnels of the pharaohs. These networks of sewers and service passages ask us to reconsider what makes a civilization advanced. Was it their grandest temples or their commitment to solving the most basic, uncelebrated problems of living together? The answer, it seems, was buried in plain sight, in the cool, dark practicality of the ground beneath their feet. The practical tunnels of sewers and storage stand in stark contrast to the most seductive of all subterranean legends, a myth woven from greed and whispered hope. For centuries, explorers have been lured into the green hell of the Amazon and the icy peaks of the Andes by stories not just of lost cities, but of the tunnels that lead to them. These are the legendary passages to El Dorado and Paititi, the fabled kingdoms of gold. The tales began with the Spanish conquest, with chroniclers like Friar Gaspar de Carvajal writing of a powerful lord who coated his body in gold dust during rituals, a gilded one or El Dorado. Over time, the story mutated from a man to a city, and then to an entire empire hidden in the impenetrable jungle, its wealth accessible only through secret mountain passes and subterranean gateways. The legend of Paititi, often considered the last refuge of the Incas, is even more specific about tunnels. Indigenous oral histories and early Spanish documents speak of the Inca fleeing the conquistadors, retreating with their remaining treasure into a vast, hidden city in the remote rainforest, reached through a long, sacred tunnel that began somewhere in the Andes. These are not stories of mere caves, but of engineered passageways, the final, protected arteries of a dying civilization. The allure is so powerful it has fueled countless expeditions, from the doomed journeys of Percy Fawcett in the early 20th century to modern teams using satellite imagery and LiDAR technology to scan the canopy. What they often find are tantalizing hints, like the complex of interconnected tunnels and buildings discovered at a site called Mamiria in Peru, or the strange, straight-line geological features deep in the Brazilian Amazon that some argue are ancient roads. Yet the golden cities remain elusive. This persistent search reveals a profound truth about these tunnel legends. They are less about archaeology and more about human psychology. They represent the ultimate hidden room, the final, unanswered question on the map. Whether they are based on distorted memories of real places like the wealthy Wieliczka people of Colombia or the lost Inca settlement of Vilcabamba, or are pure myth, their power endures because they promise more than treasure. They promise a lost world, a complete and untouched chapter of history waiting in the dark, just beyond the next bend in a tunnel no outsider has ever fully navigated. The legend asks what is more valuable, the gold they might have hidden, or the simple, devastating fact of a civilization that succeeded in disappearing completely. The legends of lost golden tunnels may remain just that, but our ability to find what truly lies hidden has undergone a revolution of its own. The 25th and final tunnel on our journey is not carved from stone, but from light and data, a product of the modern technologies that are pulling back the curtain on the subterranean world with astonishing clarity. The most transformative of these tools is LiDAR, or light detection and ranging. Imagine a laser scanner mounted on a plane or drone, firing millions of light pulses per second through the dense canopy of a jungle. These pulses bounce off every leaf, branch, and finally, the ground itself. By stripping away the digital vegetation, researchers are left with a pristine, three-dimensional map of the Earth's bare surface, revealing human engineering invisible to the naked eye for 1,000 years. In the jungles of Guatemala and Mexico, LiDAR has done more than find a few hidden structures. It has unveiled entire Maya civilizations. The scans showed not just pyramids and plazas, but a vast, interconnected network of elevated stone causeways the Maya called Sacbiab, or white roads. These were not mere paths, but formal, plaster-paved highways that linked cities across miles of impassable terrain. More astonishingly, LiDAR is mapping the karstic landscape itself, pinpointing the entrances to natural cave systems and sinkholes that the Maya considered sacred portals to the underworld, their Xibalba. This technology has turned a lifetime of ground exploration into an afternoon of digital discovery, proving that what we thought was pristine wilderness is in fact a carefully managed ancient urban landscape. Alongside LiDAR, ground-penetrating radar and muon tomography are acting as X-ray vision for archaeologists. Ground-penetrating radar sends radio waves into the earth, painting a picture of buried walls, voids, and artifacts without ever lifting a shovel. It is how researchers confirmed the utility corridor behind the cells at Alcatraz and locate unmarked graves or the foundations of lost villages. Muon tomography, which uses cosmic rays to see through hundreds of feet of solid stone, is what hinted at the large, unexplained voids within the Great Pyramid of Giza. These are not tools of speculation but of revelation. They tell us unequivocally that the age of discovery is not a chapter of the past but an ongoing process. Every year, new scans in Egypt, new flights over the Amazon, or new surveys of European castle grounds reveal another hidden passage, another sealed chamber, another forgotten network. The ground beneath our feet, from the familiar field to the iconic monument, is still a manuscript, and we have only just learned how to read its deepest lines. The story of humanity's hidden tunnels, it seems, is still being written, one pulse of light at a time. From sacred tombs echoing with ancient chants to vast cities built for 20,000 souls, the world beneath our feet is a testament to the incredible breadth of human ambition. We have walked through tunnels carved for survival, like the Cold War refuge of Teotihuacan, and for the soul, like the resonant oracle chamber in Malta. We have seen engineering for pure utility in Rome's sewers and for transcendent art in the salt chapels of Wieliczka. Each passage, whether built from fear, faith, or sheer necessity, reveals a different facet of who we are. They are the hidden architecture of our deepest impulses, our desire to protect what we cherish, to connect with what we worship, and to conceal what we fear to lose. This journey through 25 hidden worlds proves that history is not a single story written on the surface, but a layered, interconnected narrative, much of which remains in the shadows, waiting for the light of a new discovery or a simple question. So we turn that question to you. Out of all these astonishing subterranean passages, which one captured your imagination the most? Was it the cosmic ritual space beneath the Pyramid of the Feathered Serpent, or the haunting, graffiti-covered refuge of Naours? Let us know in the comments below. If you are fascinated by the mysteries buried in our past, be sure to subscribe and join us as we continue to uncover the forgotten chapters of history. Remember, the next great discovery might not be in a distant desert or a deep jungle, but in the quiet earth right beneath your own feet, holding secrets just waiting for their story to be told.